Welcome to Sports Wars and Sports Picks. World Cup final preview happens only once every 4 years. So we have Argentina against France. The people thought it would be either Argentina or Brazil against France in the finale from prior to the World Cup beginning. Remember, everybody here at Sports Wars, to like, share, and subscribe if you want to continue to get interesting, creative content all year long. And if you want the best priced sports handicapping information and picks out there in the business period, there's no better place than sportspicks.locals.com, where for $10 a month or $100 a year, you can get 1,000 picks over the course of the year in all the sports: college football, pro football, European and world global style football, whether it's the European Premier League, or whether it's the English Premier League or the European Championships, or whether it's the World Cup, as well as basketball and baseball and hockey and a bunch of other stuff. You can also get free content information just for joining. You get a wide range of handicappers information and analysis, which you can get, again, the best value out there. For $10 a month, you can have the average rate of return for Sports Pick subscribers for the last 2 years has been over 50% annually. Not a lot of places, not a lot of handicapping sites can pay that out. Not a lot of hedge funds even make that. So let's talk about the World Cup finale, which is Argentina and France. Argentina comes into this off a 3-0 thrashing of Croatia as Lionel Messi continued to dominate with one of the best setup goals in the entire World Cup. France comes in winning 2-0 over a feisty Morocco squad that played one of its best offensive games of the entire tournament. And the only goals it gave up were off accidentally diverted balls that landed right on a French player's foot, right in front of goal. What's interesting about this from an expected goal perspective, the Argentina comes in having dominated throughout the Cup from an expected goal perspective. By expected goals, they've won every game by on average a goal or more. They come in having dominated Australia in the round of 16 from an expected goal perspective. Same with the Netherlands, even though that game went to penalties. Same with Croatia. You're talking about an Argentina squad that comes in with an expected goal edge per match of 2 expected goals. The biggest expected goal dominance in the history of the World Cup while these stats have been available, which is the last several World Cups. By contrast, France comes in having an expected goal disadvantage against Poland, an expected goal disadvantage against England, and only a slight expected goal edge over Morocco. They come in with one of the weakest expected goal profiles of any finalist in the modern era. Then you have the historical factors. France is the one of those teams that in recent era had recently won the World Cup and got back to the final. So Brazil did it in 1998, got back to the final after winning in 1994. France itself did it. Again, this is going to be their 4th World Cup final appearance in the last 8 World Cups. Rather extraordinary performance by the French. But the France did it in 2006 after winning it in 1998 when Zidane was healthy and back. And then of course, if you go back a little bit further, Argentina itself was a team that made it to the World Cup final in 1990 after winning in 1986. But what do all 3 of those repeat finalists have in common? They all lost when they got to the finale. So by expected goals and recent historical performance status, Argentina should be the favorite, but it's an even money pick'em game. Argentina came in as almost a 2-1 underdog to win it all, and France even money. But after Argentina thrashed Croatia and France just got by Morocco with 1 early goal and 1 late goal as they were desperately diving to stop Morocco opportunity after opportunity right in front of the net, the betting public had a slight shift of heart and now see it as an even game. So that's where we are, and that's how it steps into the World Cup finale and final. Your thoughts on how they both got here in terms of the finale, Gordon?
Yeah. So that game between Argentina and Croatia was the Lionel Messi show, right? From the penalty kick where there was no Harry Kane moment there. He does not miss. And we talked about how we wonder why people go high like that, go top shelf. But if there's one player who can do it, and you have no doubt it's going in, it's Messi. So the penalty kick, no question, and then that amazing setup, that unbelievable assist. The dribbling, and then Messi's ability to see the field is what is just uncanny. At what is he, 5'6"? I mean, I don't know how he sees over half the players on the field, but incredible dribbling. He beats defenders, and then he sends it back right to the spot. So it was all Messi. He was unbelievable, and he was unstoppable. So he's looking at the top of his game. I didn't realize till I read a story about this that he's a little bit ticked since the Netherlands game. I guess Louis van Gaal made a couple comments that really angered Messi. One was that when Messi doesn't have the ball, he really doesn't do much for his team. And Van Gaal had the gall to say that if it went to penalty kicks, the Netherlands would have an advantage. Well, both of those statements angered Messi, so he's ticked. And everybody realizes that that's not good for opponents. You don't want an angry Lionel Messi. I guess now some people have pointed out that opposing coaches before a game always speak very favorably of Messi for this very reason. Like they praise him before a game because they don't want him mad. Well, so Messi's he's playing at the top of his game. That game was just incredible. And Croatia really never had a chance. Argentina was just firing on all cylinders. And it had to be sweet revenge for 2018 when it was Croatia who knocked out Argentina from the World Cup by a score of 3-0. Argentina got complete payback for that. So Argentina just looks amazing to me. Right. They gave up only 0.5 expected goals in their last couple games to Croatia and the Netherlands. They only gave up 0.5 expected goals. Meanwhile, France has given up quite a few expected goals against, right? I think it was 2.4 against England, 1.75 against Poland. So France has given up a lot of expected goals. Now, what they've done, and, it might be a combination of luck, but also skill, they score first, right? If France scores early, then they sit back. The thing that I found the most amazing about the Morocco game was precisely that. France got that goal early, and then they really sat back. They let Morocco have the ball, and they did not attack much. Morocco had some incredible chances, right? A bicycle kick off the post. The keeper had to get a hand on it, and then it went off the post. Morocco could have scored and tied that game on a few occasions. So France plays a dangerous game in that way. If they get an early goal, this has worked for them. They sit back and they absorb the pressure and they wind up winning. But boy, they've gotten lucky a couple times playing that game. And it requires that they score first. It requires that they score the first goal. So I agree. I think France has been playing a dangerous game. They've gotten lucky, both lucky in that they scored first in those games. If they don't, it's a very different game. And lucky that when they sit back, they don't get scored on. I agree. I think their luck's going to run out. I don't think that's going to work against Argentina. And I think the run up to this game really kind of shows that. Messi is playing at the top of his game. Everyone around him is gelling with him. Argentina is not giving up any serious expected goals. And on the other hand, France has given up quite a few expected goals and gotten lucky.
Your thoughts, Cody?
Yeah, I think those expected goals are a little exaggerated high because of that style they've played. And I think that's for them. I think that they've kind of just had a lot of reliance on their defense. They feel good and they feel comfortable with their defense, and they're not scared to have guys on their side of the field taking shots. So far, that's paid off for them. You're right. I think their luck will run out, but I think that mostly will pertain to that. The key to that, for that strategy to work at all, is them scoring early. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that as well as Argentina's been playing lately, especially on the defensive end. So if they're not able to score early, it's going to change their style, and we're not going to see that from France. We'll see more pressure, and it's going to end up coming down to I guess a battle between Mbappe and Messi. And Messi's the best in the world, and he's proved that over the last couple of games. I mean, I think they're agitated at their 4-3 loss 4 years ago in the round of 16 against France and in Russia. So I think Messi playing mad is real bad for them. But coming into this cup, Argentina was one of the favorites, obviously, and France was a little bit below them. Spain getting knocked out, Morocco having their wonderful run kind of changed things for a lot of guys. But I think a lot of people expected Brazil here, and Argentina has shown that they're the better team. So I think it's a lot of fun watching them get here, and I'm excited to see Messi continue his run. I'm really rooting for Messi, but I'm a little worried.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In terms of talent, the French at the top, you have two of the greatest players in the world, Mbappe and Messi. In the middle, you've got very high quality players. Where France has an edge, at least if you put a transfer price value on their current roster, is depth. And they've needed every single bit of that depth in this World Cup because of so many injuries. Pogba out, Benzema out, several key midfielders out, holding midfielders out. At times, Varane has been one of the best defenders in the world, but he showed a little bit shakiness. And as you note, the French, both from an expected goal and actual goal performance, until Morocco, they had failed to have a clean sheet in the World Cup. And historically, clean sheets have been a sign of success. Argentina maintained a clean sheet against Croatia, maintained until late a clean sheet against Netherlands, has had multiple clean sheets throughout the Cup. Australia got one goal against them. But from an expected goal perspective, the average of Argentine opponent in the World Cup should have been their average opponent should score 0 from an expected goal perspective. Whereas for France, the average expected goal performance has been closer to 2 goals a game. So the question is, can they continue to thrive off of that? Now, looking at the turnout, looking at talent at each level, even though the Argentine defenders are less well known than the French defenders, and I agree, the biggest surprise to me is the 36-year-old Oliver Giroud. He was extraordinary against Morocco, getting close chance after close chance after close chance. Yep. He gets a little window, and that's all he needs. Now, he's not like Maradona level 1986, where if Maradona, according to expected goal metrics, had a 10% chance or better of scoring, Maradona scored every single time. It was a crazy, crazy run. In the Mbappe and Messi are right next to each other and being the top goal scorers next to each other in terms of top performer in the cup. So I think you look at it for the different soccer analytics out there, or football for those folks around the world, is that the top player matters as much as the median player matters as much as the top player off the bench. By that metric, I give the edge to Argentina for Messi over Mbappe, even though Mbappe is great. You look at how those 2 goals were scored. It was in part Mbappe's great dribbling on that second goal, but that was a lot of luck that the ball bounces off a defender and lands right on the foot of a French offensive player right in front of the goal. That doesn't happen very often. Yeah. Now, the other one was a great shot with that side kick sweep, but there again, it was a diverted ball that landed right to a Frenchman with nobody but he and the goalkeeper about a few feet away from the goal. Those are not repeatable events on average. You can't expect them to return. The other thing is we've seen with the French defense giving up questionable fouls late. They're bad against England, but they've been doing it throughout the tourney. And Messi's been living at the penalty line, at the PK line. They cannot afford to repeat those mistakes against Argentina, especially as you note early, because their strategy has mostly thrived off early leads. So I think from a talent perspective, these teams are mostly even. France with the edge in terms of depth. Argentina with the edge in terms of Messi's performance, even though Mbappe is fantastic. But what are your thoughts on the talent disparity from front to back and from top to bottom of these two teams in the final?
Yeah. So I agree with respect to the French defensively. So I think this is a time when they're going to miss N'Golo Kante, right? They lost him before this cup. A great defensive player, just a real force in that half of the
especially
field.
Holding midfielder that would have been key against Messi.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly
and
right.
Gave Messi, when they played in 2018, France dominated this game statistically and in the final score.
That's right. And Conte had a lot to do with that. And then I think Varane has been solid, but Konate, the other center back next to him, the talent level there is just a bit lower. Konate doesn't even always start for Liverpool, right? He's in and out starting, and it's Liverpool, but still. So I think on that side, they're a little bit shaky, the defense. That's exactly right. So I think that's where they have some weakness. It's interesting looking at this group of players for both sides. They all play or almost all play for Champions League clubs. Most of them play in France or Spain, and they all know each other really well. When you start to look closely, most of these guys know each other as either current teammates or foreign or recent teammates, former teammates, or regular opponents, right? So going up the right side for Argentina, Molina and DePaul both play for Atletico Madrid. They are teammates of Antoine Griezmann. So those guys play together on their club team. Griezmann and Koundé for France both play for Barcelona, and they were teammates with Messi for 2 years in one case, 4 years in the other. And then you have up the middle for Argentina, Otamendi and Fernandez play together for Benfica. They played against Paris Saint-Germain twice in the Champions League this fall. They've played against Mbappe twice in the last month, right? So all these guys, they play together as teammates now or recently or against each other. They all know each other, and they all know each other really well. I've always wondered, that has to be a strange experience, right? I mean, when you play with another player week in and week out for years, you get to know each other really well. Now, all of a sudden, you are on opposite sides of the pitch on the world's largest stage, playing for your country, and everything is on the line. I can't imagine what that's like. So with that said, though, I think that up the middle for Argentina, Otamendi and Fernandez, Fernandez, Benfica, as I've mentioned before, won their Champions League group this fall, even though Paris Saint-Germain was in that group. Those guys have defended Mbappe twice recently, and with success on both occasions. So I think that bodes well for them. Atletico Madrid, it's interesting, the different teams that these players play for, their clubs have fared differently this fall, right? So Barcelona and Atletico Madrid both crashed out of the Champions League. They didn't do well. So the players who play for those clubs, guys like Griezmann, they've been struggling lately. They have a lot to prove. So, but coming back to on the question of talent, I think that the edge goes to Argentina for two reasons. One, especially right up the middle of the field, Otamendi and Fernandez have been playing incredibly well with Benfica, who won their group in the Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain, against Messi and Mbappe, right? And so I think that bodes well. They're clearly in top form. So even if they're not as well known as players, they're currently playing extremely well. And Messi is at the top of his game. And I agree, as great as Mbappe is, he's not Messi. And in particular, when it comes to Messi's ability to break down a defense and then do either of two things, either score a goal himself or find the open player to score that goal. That's a skill that just nobody else in this tournament has. Very few players have ever had that ability. So I think that I agree on the talent level, the edge goes to Argentina.
Yeah. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I think you're correct in your assessment on depth with France having the edge there. But what it boils down to for me is just Messi, Messi, Messi. I mean, the guy's the greatest player in the world of all time. And you know, what's really impressed me this right now about Messi is his leadership ability. You know, him taking these young guys and then having their step them up a level has been really impressive to watch. And that's been him and his leadership. You know, without that, they're not where they're at. They don't make it this far in the cup. You know, to your point earlier about those guys playing together, you know, the cohesion it takes to get guys here, you know, it's an interesting thing on the flip side of that. You know, when you're playing these guys left and right, you know, down at this stage in this game, it kind of, I think there's more in this one than there has been traditionally. And it's kind of interesting to watch how that's going to affect France with these guys knowing how they play so well, seeing them in and out. And for that reason, I give again that edge, you know, ends up bouncing back to Argentina, which overtakes that depth edge that France has. So I give the edge to Argentina here, but most of that boils down to Messi.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at it, both teams have elite players up front, elite players in the center, the elite players in the defensive backfield. No real weak links. All of them quality across the board. And France's main edge is in depth, but it's an edge that has been, in my degree, slightly eviscerated by all their injuries. So that, you know, that they have 3-4 key player. Like this is, I think the final will be a place where they miss someone like Paul Pogba. He played really great in the 2018 World Cup, even though he's coming off an off season in the regular form. You know, they're going to miss a Benzema. Benzema's a guy that's not only a clinical finisher, but was very good at helping set up other players. By his runs, by his passes, willing to go back to get the ball, etc. Here, they're relying a lot on Griezmann to do a lot of the creativity, and Mbappe doing his one-on-one thing. And that's going to be tough against this disciplined defense that's played great ball now for years, collectively as a unit. That you look at that Saudi Arabia shock loss, which I think is what shaped a lot of Argentina's odds moving forward. It was kind of flukish. Saudi Arabia had two great scoring opportunities. They managed to score on both. Probabilities of that are extremely low. Otherwise, they were dodging and diving to save their lives the whole rest of the game and got a little lucky. And that every time they did a crazy slide tackle in the box, they managed to get the ball first. So you look at all of those numbers, and I think you're right. That in the end, both teams have very good finishers. Giroud outperforming his expectations coming into to the cup. And both have defenders that can shut you down at times. Both have solid midfields and winger capabilities. So it comes down to does France have an equal to Messi? And they have the finisher that's equal to Messi and Mbappe and Giroud combined, but they don't have the creator. I like Griezmann. He's just not Lionel Messi. Messi's just Messi's been at a different level psychologically in this whole tournament. It shows up in every metric you use to study performance or just the eyeball test. So I think from a talent perspective, I think from a performance in the cup perspective to date, edge Argentina. I think from a talent perspective, given current form, edge to Argentina. And then I think from a coaching perspective, both these coaches strike me as comparable. Both very solid, both have very good backgrounds, both know their countries well, both know their teams well. The consistency of Argentina's performance under this coach is a testament to him. He was crying at the end of the semifinal. So it was classic Argentine fans. They're either crying or cheering or singing. You know, they're don't cry for me, Argentina is very much the national mindset. I think Argentina will have a fan edge because they are so desperate to see Messi get this cup because of the slow, steady, original skepticism between the Argentine fans and Messi, because he was more the European guy than the Argentine guy. You know, he loved Argentina and wanted the country's blessing. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen the country come to cheer him on to almost equal status to their beloved Maradona. And so I think you combine those factors. I think the fan factor favors Argentina. I think the talent factor favors Argentina because of Messi. And I think performance to date comes in favoring Argentina. So I lean Argentina in the cup. If I was setting odds, I would make Argentina a 60% favorite. But what do you think, Gordon?
Good. I think that's right. I mean, first, you make a very good point that between Pogba and N'Golo Kante, this French team really has been gutted in the midfield, at least compared to 4 years ago. 4 years ago, France dominated the midfield and dominated possession, right? They were a team that would own the midfield and own the ball. This is not that France team, and they're very different in that way. Griezmann is a great creative player, but he alone can't control the midfield and keep possession for them. And that's how they are so strikingly different from the team that won in 2018. In 2018, that team would just control the ball, control the midfield, and dominate the game. This team gets an early goal and sits back in defense. But they just can't control a game in that way. And that's what was striking about the Morocco game. Morocco was able to possess the ball against them for long periods of time and get right up into the box and get good chances and sustain that, right? They sustained that for a long period of time. That's not good for France. So I agree. They're much weaker in the midfield, missing Pogba, missing Kante. And consequently, I think that Argentina really will have the edge. And a lot of people, you're right about the fan support. There's a young Brazilian player, a new phenom who's about to go to Real Madrid, who tweeted during the game against Croatia, he tweeted, "Messi is insane." That's just all there is to it. And then, of course, he had to delete the tweet because he's Brazilian. And people were like, you can't do that. But that's how much support Messi has at this point, right? Everybody wants to see him win. So there will be the fan support. And I think France is weak in crucial places that will show up. I think that's right. And I also agree that first game against Saudi Arabia turned out to be a complete fluke. And in part, that was the genius of that Saudi Arabian offside trap that nobody saw coming. Because in truth, of course, Argentina was scoring goals all half the first half. They were just offside all the time. And they didn't see that coming. But after that, nothing like that has happened or will happen again. So it was really completely a fluke. I think that's
it reminded me of the Al Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday about we're going to fight for that inch because so many of those offsides were just a little bit inch off. What do you think, Cody, in terms of who should be favored for the final?
I think you take away Messi's drive to win this World Cup and kind of prove to the world that he's the best. France would have been favored to come in and be the first back-to-back World Cup champions. But Messi's drive throughout this cup is just, the way he's lifted this team on his back, a really talented team to begin with, but really just put him on his back and said, come on, guys, we're going to win this thing. I've got to give the edge to Argentina here. They're just playing too well. I think they're going to have to the edge that I would give to France thus far has been luck. And unfortunately, that's not something, that's not a barometer. You can't measure that. You don't, we say we think they're going to run out of luck because some things can't continue, but people can get lucky. So I think France has to get lucky to become back-to-back champions. Mm-hmm. And that's not out of the realm of possibilities, but I think you're absolutely right. But Argentina should be about 60% favorites here.
The other factor is I think officiating may slightly favor Messi, even though officiating proclivities have diminished in the modern World Cup era because of the global television and the ability to slow things down. And now VAR, there's like 26 cameras at these stadiums in Qatar. I think there would be, given France's proclivities for penalties and making fouls on the defensive side of the ball in this tournament, and Messi's ability to get those, plus what every official is going to feel with the fans and the global narrative coming in, of Messi, Messi, Messi. I think if there's close calls, there may not be another hand of God, but they likely the best well-titled illegal goal in the history of World Cup football to drive English fans insane. For those that don't know, Diego Maradona used his hand a little bit to help himself out to get a goal on a header. I think that too could also favor Messi. Now, this game may end up, like a lot of them have in this tournament, going to penalties. What's been fascinating to me has been what I think that these teams who purportedly prepare extensively for penalties never seem to prepare actually effectively for penalties. And in particular, I mean, like Croatia prepares well because Croatia has been playing very well in a lot of these penalties. But famously Roberto Baggio missing that penalty in the Italy-Brazil World Cup final. Other famous examples, of course, Harry Kane against, and you could name any Englishman screwing up penalties somewhere along the way.
I think Davies for Canada missed his first penalty kick.
Yes, Davies. I mean,
right.
Robert Lewandowski missed his first penalty, and when he finally scored later, he was crying like a 6-year-old. So I mean, he was so happy that he didn't screw it up. And what I've always been stunned by is the way, and then ever since been young, is that to me there's a core way to take a penalty that I've seen have much higher success rate. Average player in professional football scores on a penalty about 77% of the time. My view is, even though you got some great unique keepers out there that can really change the odds at times, that number should be 90% or better. And the reason why I think, and what I think the method is that it should be a low, hard pass to the corner of the goal with no walk up. None of this 15 feet jogging, boom, 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 doing all this, trying to guess the keeper. Because the number one mistake made is the mistake Harry Kane made, which is you don't even get the ball shot on goal. Keeper don't have to do anything. You can get cheeky like Zidane did in the World Cup final against Italy, where he decided to chip the great Buffon. Only Zidane could get away with that, though. And that still barely went in. It hit the post and then came down inside. He came close to blowing it on a world stage. Now, later on, the Italians got to him with all of their play, and he ended up exiting a little early in that cup. But you look at the psychological dynamics is, I think, a big part. Yeah. But I think you could dramatically reduce the stress level on a player as well, and anxiety level, because the more you do a run-up, the more things can go sideways. The more things either your mind can go sideways, your physical motion. It's like a basket, it's like shooting a free throw. The longer and more stuff you're doing that's not part of a ritual, the more chance you're going to miss the free throw. Whereas if you have a regular routine, much lower likelihood. And because you just have body memory. And so if they did training to develop, it's a low hard pass to the corner. And all you do is no big walk up. Then if you look at it, no keeper can stop because they have to wait for you to shoot. If when you do a run up, their other problem, you give the keeper the chance to move early. Yep. Not supposed to, but the way you do that run up, almost no referee blows the whistle on it. Whereas if you're just standing right by the ball, low hard pass to the corner. Now I was playing at a lot lower level of football, of soccer, but I never missed a World Cup. I mean, never missed a penalty. Never missed a World Cup watching it either, but never missed a penalty on that way. It's because we'd figured out that the keeper couldn't get there. There's just no scenario where the keeper can get wide and low enough when you shoot it right away, low and hard to the corner. And if you think of it as a pass rather than a shot, you don't get those bam over the net things. Yep. Now, Messi is a unique guy. Messi, everything really is a pass. Even his shots are passes. Yeah. Even if it's high, it's a pass. Like he did in the semifinal against Croatia. He wanted it high in the corner to get away from the keeper. That's one option. I prefer training people to go low because you have less likelihood they do something squirrely and knock it over the post. What are your thoughts on the penalties that we've seen so far? And what would happen if this game ended up in penalties? Who might have the edge?
Good. Well, of course, I think you're exactly right about penalty kicks. And I wish that someone would do an experiment to prove this, because my guess is, given a very hard pass, just on the edge of being a shot, a hard pass taken from the penalty spot straight to the corner, if you timed how long it took that ball to cross the goal line, and then you let the best goalkeepers in the world jump from their starting spot, and they have to go to the ground now as well, I feel very confident that no goalkeeper could get there. The time that it would take the ball to cross the goal line is always going to be quicker than even the world's greatest goalkeepers can get, not only all the way to the goal post, but to the ground. But for some reason, people haven't figured this out. So I agree. Now, the players who come the closest to doing what you're describing are the players, and I noticed the other day Mbappe does this, who do a kind of fake stutter step run up, and they wait and watch which way the keeper's going and take the penalty. Now, a lot of people focus on the sort of stutter step to see which way the keeper's going. But the truth is that the reason that works so often, and it does, it seems to work every time I've seen it taken, is that they're doing exactly this. They don't actually take the kick until they're right there. They've waited. And when they take the kick, it really doesn't matter where the keeper is. The keeper's not going to be able to get there. So that's right. But I don't understand what people are thinking with these penalty kicks. But Mbappe does exactly that. He does the stutter step, waits to see which way the keeper's going, but then it's just a hard pass. That's all it is. And he makes them. Messi, although I love the way you described that, because that's exactly right. Even though Messi goes high a lot of the time, for Messi, it's a pass, just as much so. Now, I agree with you that I prefer going low because for most goalkeepers, it's harder to get to the ground quickly than it is when you're starting standing up. It's not as hard to go high quickly. It's actually hardest to get to the ground quickly. So I think going low is still better. But which of these teams would it favor? Well, Argentina right now has shown that they're making penalty kicks. They are not choking, even against the likes of the Netherlands and Louis van Gaal, who thought, and was foolish enough to say, if it goes to penalty kicks, it gives the edge to us. Well, guess not. So I would say that Argentina has a slight edge, given the way they've performed recently in penalty kicks. They look like they have blood in their vein or ice in their veins, right? That they're not stressed about it. So I would give the edge to Argentina on penalty kicks. But as we know, anything can happen. And in part because no one seems to have figured out that you should just get a simple formula and follow it every time, like with a free throw.
And develop muscle memory to take anxiety out of the picture. Now, what's interesting about Messi is that the bigger the contest, the better his penalty success rate is, which shows you that mindset mentality edge. So, like for his club in the ordinary game, he's right at par, just a little bit above par, 76% penalty success rate. But in elimination games or key games for country or club, he goes up to 85% penalty success rate. So it gives you, and you can assume that he's up against better keepers most of the time in those matchups. Yeah. It's just because his mindset, you could tell walking up to that one he took in the semifinals, that was going in the net. He was not screwing around. He figured something out. And what he did is, where I thought he made the right decision is he didn't screw around, try to guess the keeper. He was like, I'm going to put it right in the right corner where you're not going to have time to get it. I'm going to do one of my and only he could do that because he can pass the ball in 1,000 different ways. The way you can bend it with that left foot is. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo was similar, 84% success rate because of his ability of accuracy, even on hard passes that might go up a little bit in the air. Same dynamic, great direct kick taker. To give people an idea, for most people, you looked at what an expected goal chart was, and almost every player in the world, including the so-called elite players, had almost the same expected goal performance based on situation and location and angle. With two exceptions, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo, you would add 50% probabilities to the fact it would go in the goal, especially if from distance. With Messi, you would double it. So when you have those Messi's the only guy who taking a shot outside the box has as high a chance of going in the goal as it does for elite strikers inside the box. I think that, and it's that placement. It's that ability to have that placement anywhere you want.
Control.
Yep, exactly. Same with Ronaldo. that I think gives him an edge over Mbappe or the French.
Yeah.
But the thing that would make me nervous in a PK situation is the young Argentine players and not having a disciplined system of just teaching muscle memory, a low hard pass in the corner. Those guys, when the lights are on, might make the big mistake. Now, I think there's a slight edge to the keeper so far we've seen in the Argentine penalty situation as well. Because what a keeper should do is not try to dodge left or right, is use the run up to shorten the gap. And you shorten the gap by jumping forward. Then you can react by moving and you cut off the angle. That's what I think a smart keeper does. Otherwise, a smart keeper reacts and doesn't guess. I think keepers that try to guess lose more often than they win. How many times have we seen a penalty kick go in that was shot right up the middle? If the keeper just hadn't moved, it would have been boom. End of story. Yeah. Make him make a good kick. Don't let him off the hook by just diving to the left or diving to the right before he's even kicked it.
Correct.
Yeah. Boy, yeah. Two things that are striking there. Whenever Messi goes to the penalty line, I get nervous. I get nervous for all the big players, right? When they're taking a penalty kick. I am amazed. There are no nerves there. Biggest tournament of his life, despite what he's already done. And yet nerves have no effect on that man. I was astonished. He didn't get lucky with a kick ever. He knew exactly where it was going, and that's what it did. So his focus is just off the charts, even in those big, big moments. And then you're right. I hadn't thought about it. I was so impressed with that Argentine goalkeeper's performance. I was amazed at how he was blocking kick after kick. But you're exactly right. What he was doing was coming forward, cutting down the kicker's angle. And that's exactly how he was able to block so many of those penalty kicks. So that has to give them at least a slight edge too. I agree with you, the younger players for Argentina, given how big the stage is, that's one reason for worry if it goes to penalty kicks. But boy, that Argentine goalkeeper, what an amazing performance. And it looks like he knows how to do it right.
Your thoughts, Cody, also on there's more talk of, given the number of penalty kicks in the early rounds of the tournament, of whether there should be a different way to settle these games other than penalty kick.
I don't think so. I really like the penalty kick. I'm a big fan of the penalty kicks and how they have the system set up right now. I think you're absolutely right as far as going low into the corner. Plain and simple, when you go high, you risk going too high. You're never going to risk going too low. It's not going to go underground. So even greats like Harry Kane, who tries to go high, doesn't quite have the control to get it every time. Unless you're Ronaldo or Messi, having that control to get there every time is doubtful. You're just going to have way more mistakes there than you are going to have going low. Secondarily, it's easier, like you said, the goalie's already kind of crouching, so launching upwards in an up position is much easier than getting down on the ground. So you're better off there as well. And then lastly, the run up and the shakes and the shimmies and the that's going to work less and less. Everything, life in general, things work off of rhythm. If you think about a machine, it works because all the parts are in rhythm. Like a foul shot and basketball, you have the same routine and you shoot in rhythm. An NFL player running a kickoff return back, you take off running and you run through the seams, you keep in rhythm. The guys who stop, shake, and try to run, when they do, it's fun to see. It's fun to watch when they score off that stuff. But it's so rare comparatively to the guys who score continuing running and keeping in that rhythm. So staying in that rhythm is ever important. And we've already talked about going low, how much better it is. I think you're absolutely right there. Going low corner is your best bet. I think that Argentina is favored here in the penalty kicks. France all time is only 50% in penalty kicks all time in the World Cup. So that doesn't bode as well for them. Argentina is a little higher than that. Even with their young players, given the Argentinian goalie, I think it favors penalty kicks favor Argentina there, and I'm definitely a fan of keeping penalty kicks the way they are. I like the way the games are decided that way.
Yeah, you make a good point, Cody, about rhythm, the importance of rhythm, and like Robert was saying, muscle memory. The job to make a penalty kick should have been done over months and years before you ever get to that point, right? All the work for taking and making a penalty kick should have been done in building up the routine, the
in your
muscle
formative
memory.
years.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, and especially with these clubs, it's the easiest thing to practice and prepare. Like what I would do is block off the goal. Put on, you have those sort of wooden printouts of a goal.
Yeah.
But take a wooden block out and block out all but the bottom thirds of each side. Or I would say you make it even the 6, but that the ball has to go in there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about playing with a live keeper. Have the player continually take shots.
Yeah.
And then the second way to practice it is the keeper knows which way you're going, knows what you're going to do, and see how often they can stop it. And if a player sees, gets to the practice of always hitting it at that low hard angle and speed, and then they see the keeper can't stop it even when the keeper knows that's exactly where it's going, it would build up the confidence as well as the muscle memory to perform, because we're seeing World Cups where people are missing 60% of the penalties. I mean, it's 50% of the, it's, on average, again, around the world, more than 3 out of 4 penalties go in. And we're seeing below average success rates in the tournament, often due to just what I think are poor penalty kicks. The other options I would think are to make instead of a penalty kick, make it a long range kick. You can take the kick from anywhere outside the box. And because then you have a little more challenge and the rest. Then of course your Messi's of the world would have a massive edge, but that might make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more different. We'll see if they ever get around to making that change. But I think for now we're with penalty kicks. But
penalty kicks is definitely an equalizer because it is simple enough that everybody's supposed to be able to do it. When you do that, you're definitely going to make it. Your talent's going to be way more important in terms of penalty or in terms of how these games are won than it currently is.
No doubt. All righty, thanks everybody. Again, you can go to sportspicks.locals.com to get free picks and predictions all year long. To get subscriber picks only cost $10 a month. Best time to get it is now. Best value, over 50% rate of return 2 years running in all forms of football betting. And of course, if you're watching this on Sports Wars, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully it'll be a fun cup. I'll be cheering for Argentina. Already got money on Argentina. But the French are as deserving a team as any to repeat in the cup. So hopefully it'll be a great game, and we'll see a great finale there in North Africa. Thanks, everybody.